Our next guest in January lost his best friend, his number one fan, the love of his life, and yes, his wife of 46 years. And with that love, he gathered his family and wrote a tribute book to her, Real Freedom by Donny Ingram. The story's next. Donny, tell us about the tribute, tell us about the book, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, we're all excited about the book. When we put this together, actually, we were inspired to do it after my wife passed away in January. And, we've been looking at, I was actually looking at this book for a couple of years, and I wanted to really get the principles down. But when God showed us to really that all of us should be writing this book, I contacted the boys and their wives, and they all jumped on board. They took a principle out of a kingdom principle. They talked about that principle, and then we wanted to make it a tribute to my wife because she showed us real freedom. She lived it. She was the express, embodiment of real freedom. So each one of them took a principle, but what they did was after they talked about that principle was we actually used her life experiences to show how that principle is played out and expressed in everyday life. And, our goal was to touch as many lives as possible because, Maureen, as you know, people are afraid today. There's so many people running scared of everything, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to be afraid of everything. I mean, we got folks that's afraid of their shadow, and we don't have to do that. I want to walk in real freedom, just as my wife. We taught our boys to walk in real freedom. They're doing extremely wonderful today, but they have a mindset that's different than the world. And you got to have that. When you have that, your mindset, it's like I heard one gentleman say yesterday, he said, our body would respond if we could get our mind right. And that is so true. And that's what this book is all about. It's about really changing a mindset, getting you to understand that you were born to walk in real freedom. And if you use these principles, the 7 of the most powerful principles in God's word, that if you use them and you employ them in your life, you will walk in real freedom.
Okay, well, let's stack back a little bit because you were married for 46 years and your wife was the one that took a graduate with, was it a 6th grade level? And
she took me. She married me with a 6th grade reading level. She became my greatest supporter, and fan. And because of that and her encouragement, I was, never thought we'd write books like we did, travel the world and speak. But because of her encouragement, I could see that I could accomplish things that, I didn't think I could in the beginning. So yeah, she walked me through that through college, all the way through my master's degree, we had a 46 years of the greatest time ever. And really the last 6 years we traveled together. I made one trip without her. She was a speaker just like me. And when I'd work her book table when she spoke and she worked mine when I spoke, we just had a blast. One meeting we were at, they called us the power team, the power couple. So we just enjoyed life, and it infected other people because other people would ask us, for instance, the last 15 years, people would call us and want to talk about their marriage because they were having issues. So we got into marriage coaching is what we call it. And, folks just need to know, number one, how to communicate. And, once you understand that, you can get by with a lot of things. You just have to learn it. We learned it, early in our marriage that we had to talk about things. And we, because of that, we were able to work things out. What most people would get mad and sew up. And, we just didn't want to do that. We wanted to have a relationship. And I believe because of that, that's what our sons sought in their wives. They wanted the same relationship that we had. So they got that. They found that person that had been designed for them. So, that's making their life even greater. And, those kind of things are just invaluable. And that's what we wanted to get across to people.
Well, it's very much in the book, and she is very much represented throughout the entire book. So with that, then of course she changed your life.
Oh, yes.
But she changed others as well. Can you talk about that a little?
Yes, she changed lives around the world, everywhere we went. I spent 21 years in the Air Force, and we were stationed for a while in the Middle East. She became a model for Middle Eastern clothes. While there, she served on the board of the Christian Women of Amman, Jordan. She affected lives everywhere she went. And if you've seen her pictures, you realize the smile. She had that smile always. She was always infectious. We believe that if your appearance showed that you were happy, you were free, that it drew other people. And she's an example of that. We just had a blast, and enjoyed life, and people noticed that. People want that. People would come up to us that we had never knew. We would go visit and speak, and people would think that we were just married. And when they would ask us and we'd tell them how many years we'd been married, it shocked them. They said, "Well, you guys act like newlyweds." Yeah, I married my greatest fan. People ask me, what excites you? I said, I married it. She was the epitome of real freedom in life.
But we'll get into the principles, but even in your book reading section, there was, and your daughter-in-law just briefly mentioned it, about being able to communicate with your love language, was her, hers was, your wife was affirmation, right? Yeah. And you were open. You were open to continually being coachable and allowing.
Oh, yes.
And surrendering.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, it has to be a partnership, and you have to understand what I love the love languages, because it helps people see how your partner receives love. Because we try to give love like we received it, all of our life. Well, mine's physical touch. When we first got married, for the first few years, she thought she married an octopus, because I thought, to show love, I had to be groping her or hugging her or kissing her, and hers was words of affirmation. So, telling her how great she was, telling her how beautiful she was, how great her food was that she cooked. That's what, turned her on. That showed her love. But when you understand that, and that's what we try to get other people to see, that helps you draw together in a relationship. And, that's when, again, real freedom, in that relationship, you can enjoy it.
Okay. And so as far as learning, and as far as that, I know that it was every morning in the car ride, there was the reading of scripture, of continually being open to more information and what that looks like, and being able to then apply that, be open to the message.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then you've done that in other books and in other authors, if you look, and that, can you lean into that as far as people and that being part of life, that lifelong learning? Yes.
Yeah. I think you should be an eternal student. I think you always need to be learning and growing, because if we're not learning, then we're backing up. There is no status quo. You're either moving forward or you're losing ground. So we always got to be studying and learning. And that's one thing that we did. That's why we advise people as married couples, they need to go to a marriage conference at least every other year, because, one guy said, there's nothing wrong with my marriage. I don't need to do that. And I said, but it's preventative medicine. You've got to go and learn things about each other. People just don't understand the power behind that when to be an eternal student. We talked about things, we read books. Some of the greatest authors when it comes to, to living life, free, is just, there's tons of them out there, but there's a few that just ignited us. And, one thing that ignited us when, is a man by the name of Mac Anderson. He formed Simple Truth. I don't know if you've ever read any of his stuff. He's got 35 books out there. But he said something many, many years ago that really touched us tremendously. He said, people, and I think Christians really need to embody this. He said, people are a lot like sticks of dynamite. The power's on the inside, but nothing happens until the fuse gets lit. That's when we realize we want to be fuse lighters. We need to help other people learn how to light that fuse in order to live the life they were designed to live. So, that took us in a whole different manner. So, our morning rides to work for years, that we did that even after we both retired and were just traveling and speaking. We would every morning, and I told a gentleman yesterday was asking me how I was doing since, Charlotte passed. And I said, well, the times I missed her most is in the mornings, because we would take our cup of coffee and our devotionals and sit on the deck and talk and read and discuss, what we would talk, the books that we were reading and what we had learned from them and how we were going to share that and what it was going to do for us. And, those are invaluable. You've got to be an eternal student, and other books are tremendous, to learn from, especially the good book.
Well, we're going to get into the principles, but I have to touch on this. Okay. Throughout the book, the kids, daughter-in-laws, as well as your three sons, talked about your driving. How often did that come up?
Yeah, Charlotte, I used to tell the boys, because her thing was, she always thought, well, she'd tell the boys, every other day, Dad almost killed us today, Well, that was not true, but she was elaborating on that. But, every time I would get a little faster or make some moves going down the road, because we traveled about an hour and 15 minutes a day to work and back. And she would say, Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I told the boys, I said, well, I'm keeping Mom close to the Lord. But yeah, she always made fun of my driving. She said, Donnie, you've never had an accident, and that's what I kept telling her. She had accidents, none of her own fault. But I always brought that up to her when she talked about my driving. So, well, I don't have any accidents, look at my record. But, that was the thing. And the boys, they just drove that home, talking about, Mom, her talking about my driving all the time.
Yes, the Jesus' name came up quite a bit, and it wasn't just the scriptures. So.
Yeah.
So let's get into the principles. Okay. So there's first of all and again, I love this is where so what I got out of the book. There's so much, but the language of transformation. Mm-hmm. It's through the book. It's through your daughter-in-law's, the connectivity of the being, and that's where it is. It's the leaving your legacy. It's not about us. It's about the purpose and your calling, and that is where the people are being called.
Yeah, absolutely.
And within that, then when they're called, and so that there is this, and I believe it was your youngest who was saying that it's at a time where we all need to be called, and it's just reminded me of like The Stand, where they came from everywhere hearing the message, and it was different delivery of the message, but all the same elements are significantly through of what that is. And that was the download I got, that as much as that, and I know you guys spoke about church, and there's some people coming back, maybe the resistance, right? What resists persists to organized religion, but all of my calling is absolutely mirrored in every one of your 5 principles. And that's what blew my mind. Yep. Can you lead into that, go into the 5 principles, and we'll start going into what this means?
Yeah, the first principle we talked about, my middle son's wife talked about choice. You've got to make good choices in life. And the earlier you can do that, the better your life's going to be. But you've got to, and then of course she's a 3rd grade teacher, and she, her thing was she said, I can see, from my students, the kind of choices and the home life they have at home. So we've got to lean into people and get them to understand that you need to look, I believe you need to live your life with eternity in view. Nobody can plan on a legacy. It's just going to happen. So, but it takes place in your everyday life. So we have to make good choices. We all make choices, and every choice has an end result, regardless of how small or how large it is. What we think may affect a lot of folks. We need to concentrate on making those right decisions. I will never forget one of the greatest choices that I was convinced to make was earlier. My first mentor, I joined the Air Force. Fortunately, I was able to get in, but my first supervisor recognized my deficiency in reading. And he convinced me to go back to a reading lab for 4 hours a day, week after week after week, until I got my speed and my comprehension to a 12th grade level. And that was one of the greatest things that anybody other than, Jesus Christ has ever done for me is helped me understand. And from that point on, I understood that, this changed my life, the life of my family, and everyone we met, because that allowed me to see things in a different view. So from that point on, we tried to make better choices, because the 21 years in the Air Force we spent, the choices that we made was driven by, because some of the folks that I worked for some dynamic people who seemed to have it all together. And I realized that the choices they made in life is what drove them. So I wanted to make good choices for me and my family and my sons, because that's what's going to determine, where my future lies. So choice, that's why we wanted to start with choice, because it is one of those things that people have to understand, that they've got to make good choices in life. If you don't like where you're at today, then you got to change your decisions. You got to make better decisions. I think John Maxwell said it best. When we where we're at today is a sum total of all the choices we've made in our past. We have got to make good choices, and of course we moved from that into design. I wrote the chapter on design because that's something that is thrilled me, and it's excited me to understand that I was designed to succeed. If you think about, that's why I like the egg example. So, if an egg is broken from the outside, life ends. But if it's broken from the inside, life begins. Same thing with us. It's got to start on the inside. It's got to start up here. We got to understand that we are designed to succeed. Think about when your body gets a puncture or a break or a scrape, what happens? It begins to heal itself from the inside. So we got to understand, if we want to change, if we want something different, then we got to think differently. I like Dr. David Stoops' book on Rethink How You Think. He changed my whole concept, because he took God's principles and showed you how to train your subconscious. Most people don't think about that. Earl Nightingale figured it out many, many years ago, before we all had the different studies that showed us this. He said, whatever you want to accomplish, he said, whatever you plant into your subconscious and you nourish it with repetition and emotion would come to pass for you. And that is so, so true. We've got to understand that we are designed. We all have gifts, talents, skills, and abilities, and we have to hone those. When we do, that's going to lead us down a path for success and freedom. We're going to be able to walk free. So design is one of the things that I teach all the time, is you got to see yourself differently than what you normally do. You got to change the way of thinking.
You had, and I'm bringing this up, I love that, be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Yes.
And that stuck with me in that it is how you think, and what you're inferring, right, from is intention and declaration.
Right.
And that with our divine purpose, standing in that, and allowing, right, getting ourselves out of the way.
That's right.
It comes, and that the piece of surrender, which is difficult for many people, that they're just allowing, and yet it's so easy, because then the answers do come.
Yeah, you're right. That's where Romans 12:2, you've got to grab that. That's where you mentioned that, eternal or education, you got to keep learning and growing. That's what we're talking about. When you keep putting that good stuff in, then your life's going to produce better. You're going to think differently. So we have to realize that we've got to be transformed. And the only way to start that process is up here. I used to tell everybody, well, I still do when I teach, is you got to look at your subconscious as a garden, and your conscious mind as a gardener. Everything your gardener plants is going to grow. So you have to plant the right stuff, in that subconscious, because that's where dieting comes from. If you want to diet, then you got to put the right stuff in your subconscious. And I tell people, you got to have some affirmations, as you said. I used to tell people, well, I weighed 232 pounds. I want to get back to 185. Would I tell myself to do that? I trained my subconscious because I said, 4 or 5 times a day, I am at my ideal weight of 185 pounds. And one lady told me, she said, well, Donny, you're just lying to yourself. No, I'm training my subconscious, because once I plant that in there, that's going to help me diet. It's going to help me exercise, because your subconscious is going to look for ways to make it happen. So you've got to learn, you do have the power to change. You have the power to influence your own mind to get where you need to go.
Okay. So then you are also, again, you provide the tools in there too, talking about journaling, right? Yeah. And that also, so within, is it that 90% of our ability is actually in our self-conscious versus the 10% that we go around with?
Yep. Yep. And a lot of people, especially in the financial world, I spent 20 years in the financial industry, and a lot of the trainers and teachers there that are so successful will tell you 80% of building wealth is psychological. Only 20% is mechanics. If you don't think it, it ain't never going to happen. So, my success formula is what I taught my boys, and what they're teaching and what they're living is just B plus B equals R. Belief plus behavior equals results. If you're not seeing the results you want, whether it be in school and selling a product, building a business, raising a family, the thing that has to change is your behavior. But you can't change behavior without changing your belief system, because all your behavior is going to come from what you believe. So we have to deal with that belief system. And that's where, Romans 12:2 comes in, transform your mind, your thinking.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Power of the Tribe Network and Rising Star Book Club. This afternoon, I have Jennifer Stowell here with the author of Driven to Serve, Perspective from Those Called to Serve in Public Service in Uncertain Times. So Jennifer, welcome to the show, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Okay, so first of all, I know that the book, a big piece of the book,
that was actually the name we used temporarily until I was able to.
people are hurting. People are lost.
They are.
And so for anyone that's out there, the book, the 5 principles, the steps, what would you say to them?
I would say that they need to grasp those principles and apply them to their life. Understand that these principles have been proven. We weren't the first to come up with these. These things have been proven over thousands of years. They work. Anybody willing to work to use them and believe them are going to get where they need to go in life. We can't get by without using the right principles to get where you want to go. That's what my oldest daughter-in-law, when she wrote standards, we've got certain standards that we have to live by. And we need to understand what those standards are, because that's the guidelines, that's the boundaries you're going to set of what you will and will not do in order to get where you need to go. So many people today, they're extremely successful, but they don't hang on to success because they didn't get it the proper way. And, when I tell people, you've got to be willing to do whatever it takes to get where you need to go. But in doing that, it needs to be legal, moral, and ethical, because some people get it, the wrong way, and they can't hang on to it. I want to hang on to my success, and I want to hang on to my freedom. And even today, people they're fearful. We live in a land of the free, in America. And I hear people all the time talking about we're losing our freedoms. We're losing our freedoms. Well, we may be losing some things, but freedom starts up here. That's Galatians 5:1. Jesus, came to give us freedom. So we have to understand where that freedom comes from. And when we do, that's when life begins to work. That's the beauty of what my middle son talked about in communications. You got to communicate to yourself as well as to other people. If you don't understand communication, you're going to have a struggle in life in general.
I thought that chapter was so significant. And I love the less is best. If you don't have something with meaning,
Yes.
don't say it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. My brother-in-law, was a fine example of that. I grew up. We went to school together, and I didn't think about it until later on in life, till after we were both grown and gone, and had families of our own. That he would never say anything negative about anyone. His philosophy was, if you can't say anything good to inspire, uplift, or motivate somebody, then keep your mouth shut. He just would not do that. And my grandson picked up on that. He was another one that my wife asked him one day about liking somebody on TV. And he thought about it for a minute. He said, well, Mama does. He was not going to say, he was not going to be negative about anything. And he's still that way today. He's got a family of his own, but he's still that way today. We've got to learn that, that starts up here. You've got to realize how you think, set those standards, communicate the right message, because people are, it's like you said, people are hungry today, and they want to know, and they're going to follow people that are doing or have a plan to get somewhere. They want people that are motivated. Nobody wants to hang around stinking thinking today. They want to be around people who are going somewhere. And I've told people a lot of times, check how your thinking has been in the past. And if it hadn't been where you want, maybe you need to do a checkup from the neck up.
and that the ability to make that change is always there.
Yeah, always there.
Okay, so the title.
Yes.
The title, Real Freedom. Can you lean into that concept of what that means to you and your family?
What it meant to us was a way of life. Real freedom is actually a way of life. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of living. Every day, that we get up, I know that I'm living free. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you go back to scripture, you can find example after example where people were bound, but they lived free. Peter in Acts chapter 2 was free. He was going to be beheaded the next day. He's in prison, but he is living free. He is so free. Even though he knew he's going to be beheaded the next day, he's sleeping soundly. So when people were praying and God sent an angel to bring him out of there, the angel had to kick him in the side to wake him up. He was so sound. So we have to understand you can be free regardless of what the situations are around you. And again, it comes with a way of thinking. That's why a purpose is so important. My oldest son, he wrote the chapter on purpose. Charlotte helped him find purpose. That's real freedom. When you understand your purpose, that's where passion comes from. Passion will allow you, and that's what real freedom is all about. It is a lifestyle, Maureen. It is a lifestyle. It's a way of thinking, a way of living. Every decision has to do, shows that you're freedom. And people want that. People need that today more than ever, because we're living in a time of instability like we have never seen before in life. And people still can live free in this time we're living.
Well, the chapter on purpose, that when you're in your purpose, it's your given purpose.
Right.
And that if you allow that to be the focus of and once you do, there is no choice, because it's not your choice. This is why you're here. Right. That's absolute freedom. There's a relief to that. Yeah,
they are. I mean, that's why Rick Warren's book, The Purpose-Driven Life, has sold so many copies. People want to know, why am I here? Well, it doesn't take much to find that out. We're all given gifts, talent, skills, and abilities, and we have to hone those. That has to do with our purpose. Everybody can't do what I do, and I can't do what everybody else does. But each one of us can do what we're designed to do. And when we do, man, that's when you can run with it. That's when work is no longer work. It's your passion. You wake up excited on Monday morning, not dreading it.
So the book, tell what has been the feedback? Because you've been on a whirlwind. When was it launched? I mean, it's 2 months ago.
July the 1st, it launched.
So just barely a month ago. What has happened since, and what people's reaction?
Within the first 12 to 14 hours, it became an international bestseller. And we have gotten so much feedback from people who have gotten the book, the ebook, and read it. They're waiting on the
audible.
I mean, we're going to do an audio book with being read by each author. So what the feedback has just been phenomenal. The feedback we got gave us things that we never knew about. especially from my wife. I mean, we got a phone call, and I got a long letter from a girl in California that went to high school with my two oldest sons, and she said, if it wasn't for Miss Charlotte, I would not be here today. And she said, I was contemplating suicide because of her home life. And she said, Miss Charlotte got a hold of me and talked me out of that. And she said, I have had a phenomenal life, great career, but I would not have that had it not been from her. We never knew that. We didn't know that. We've gotten things like that, seemingly every day, of how Charlotte touched other people's lives, with her words, her actions, and that big smile. Everyone mentioned that smile. I mean, even at her homegoing, in the middle of a pandemic, there was not even room to stand. Many people come, loved on us, and left because there was nowhere that they could even stand. We had over 2,000 people on the live stream for that day. So, she touched lives. And that was our goal, is not only to show people what she did and how she did it, but that you can do that. That's what you're here for. I mean, as the word says, we're his hands extended. We need to be touching lives every day. That should be our goal. Who am I going to encourage, uplift, or motivate today?
Okay, so what do you think she's doing in heaven?
Oh, she is having the time of her life. There's a book that I was told to get after she passed, and I'm going to tell you, Maureen, that book has helped me tremendously in getting over this. It's called Imagine Heaven by John Burke. Greatest book I've ever read, because what he did, it took him about 35 years to write the book, but he had over 1,000 interviews of people that had near-death experiences, people that went to heaven and come back. Also, people went to hell and come back. But in that book, he took about 125 of them, and he explained, those folks, and he let them tell their story. And I'm telling you, the first time I got that book, I laid down and I read 2 or 3 chapters, and I just laid the book down and cried. I want to go now, because I know what she's experiencing. There's no way the word even tells us we can't even imagine. Mind has not conceived what it's going to be like there. So, and one of the things that was so great is every one of them said, there's no words to explain the love you feel when you reach heaven. And all your family is there waiting on you when you enter the gates. Which was another thing, because her dad and her grandparents, a lot of friends have gone on, her uncles, but that book, she is enjoying heaven, tremendously, and it is nothing but joy and fun. And everybody in that book, I just encourage people to get that book, because it'll give you a view that you have never seen before, and it'll allow you to really long for that. I just think people need to get a grip, and you need to understand what eternity really holds for you.
Yeah. Well, it's the more that you stand in allowing light and love and continue working in that level, they're the highest level. There's other energy levels. It's okay. Energy.
Yeah.
We just don't understand because we're not supposed to.
That's right. Absolutely. You mentioned one of the things. I give a list in the back of the book of all of the books that we like most, what helped us get where we're at. And there's a list of them there. I've actually got a list of about 300, but I put the top ones there that Charlotte and I really grabbed a hold of, and it really helped us, of what other people experienced and how they experienced it and what it did for them. So people just, my goal is to infect and influence as many people as possible to live the life that they need to live, that they were designed to live.
So we talked about earlier about that, the message and the calling, and what people that are listening, and that it's coming from all directions, and yet it's the same message.
No.
If you had someone that's saying, I don't have the same skills as Donny or Charlotte and the family, and I don't even know. Your son said this. It was when he got the calling to go into ministry. What encouragement, or what would you say to someone to say that just you get to allow and the strength to follow their purpose? Because it takes courage.
It does. It takes courage. And you have to identify what that purpose is. That's one of the things that Brad, when he talked about purpose and passion, where he found his purpose. Charlotte explained to him where she found her life purpose was in God's word. And he walks through that. He said, you need to understand what your purpose is. You need to get some scriptures and principles that will help you find what that is. And people we have a purpose. And when you understand that purpose, life, that's when life becomes real. That's when you can enjoy every day, every moment, because you know why you're here. I would encourage people to find out. I think that's one of the things that we lack in education, both in high school and college. We don't help people find their purpose. We're driven. Some people are driven there because of parents, some teachers, authority figures that tells them, oh, you ought to be a doctor, you ought to, be a salesman, you ought to be a truck driver, whatever it is. But you need to individually find what your purpose is. What are you good at? Because you have some innate skills and abilities that you were born with. Yeah. One of the statistics I heard was over 70% of the people are not working in their purpose today. That's why every Monday morning is so hard for them. I read where the AMA said most heart attacks happen between 7 and 9 on Monday morning because people have to go back to work. No. You don't have to do that. Understand discover what that is. And it may be different for a lot of people. I think everybody has a purpose, regardless of what your physical limitations are, your education level. Everybody has a purpose. And when you understand that, that's when passion for living comes out. And that's the fuel you need to get where you want to go.
And the one piece that with that purpose, they were the only ones put here to do that. And that's the incredible gift and responsibility.
Yes. It is a responsibility. And we need, that's why we need to take it seriously. Because our purpose, we have a responsibility to fulfill that purpose. That's why we're here. I had one gentleman explain it. I was in a meeting and he explained, how our purpose comes about. He said, when you're designed, he said, God designs a destiny for you and a purpose. And then he puts everything you're going to need along the way. And he comes back and then he designs you to fulfill that. So everything's already there that you need, including your education, your finances, whatever it is. You just have to walk it out. And that's where faith comes in and trust.
And surrender. And then what you're saying is absolute responsibility because everything happened for a reason.
Absolutely. There's no coincidences in life.
So what's next? How can people get in touch with you and just continue following the amazing work that you guys are doing with Real Freedom?
Well, real-freedom.com is the website for the book. You can go there and see it in every form that we're going to put out. My website is DonnyIngram.com, and that's Donny with a Y. So you can follow me there. My phone number, my email, everything's there. All of, what I do and how I do it is there. I would like to hear from people. There's a contact form at DonnyIngram.com. I would like for people to let us know, what you think about the book. Any of the books that we have, really. We've got several books out there. My daughter-in-law, my oldest daughter-in-law released one that's just phenomenal. It's called Be the Wife Who. And, it's a phenomenal book. My son's putting out one, The Realities of Ministry. My youngest son, who is a banker now, he's putting out one on that. He says, we're not teaching people to write, stuff in school. So I want to put out a book that tells young people how to manage their money, how to set their finances, how how they should live and how they should manage their life. And then, my middle son and I, we're putting a book together that says from business to fitness, because he and I work out in the gym about an hour and a half every day. And, I've taken my blood sugar from 275 to 116, after being in the gym 2 months. And, he's done phenomenal stuff physically. So we want to show people what we did and how we did it in order to get off all this medication and to, live life the way we should. And, it actually becomes a drug, really for us, to do that.
I love that principle because it starts at the home. And I work out with my 13-year-old daughter, and my son works out with his dad, and you lead. Yep. And you share. So this was a real privilege. But So there's more to come because there's more
Oh, yeah.
books to come. So we get to meet again, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We got several more to come, several more inside of us that we got to get out. You know, this book here, the real freedom here, we're wanting to push that. It's going to come. It's in ebook form, paperback, hardcover, and audio form will be coming out in a couple of months. So, we want to really press that because that book fits in everything that we teach because it's a way of life. And that's what we want people to understand.
Well,
But
I'm looking forward to the audiobook. It's going to be a great format and that should be fun for you guys, each having a chapter. It'll bring it alive. And so one thing to say about Charlotte before we go.
She was a phenomenal individual. She touched lives all over the world. And I talk to her every day. My friend sent me a book of letters to write to her, and I write to her every day. But she was one of those unique people that she always had the right thing to say. And she could read people like nobody I've ever seen. When we traveled, at restaurants and stuff, she could read people what was going on. I mean, we made a kind of a game out of it, but she could read people. She knew from looking at you if you were in pain, you're in agony, you're having hard decisions. I mean, she just had that ability to read people, and that's one of the things that I loved about her because she helped make decisions because she could read people. And there's people today that need to understand what body language is. She grabbed it naturally. I mean, she understood, what people were going through before we even speaking to them. So and she could, she knew that about me. She knew when I was upset or when I was having decisions. She was just one of those unique people that could do it. She wasn't only beautiful, but she had it together when it comes to connecting with people.
So a beautiful tribute. And that as she touched so many people, so will the book. And thank you for writing it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Lorraine.
You're welcome. See you soon.